Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In the world of DevOps and automation, Python script don't fail because of syntax. They fail because of files, OS issues, permissions, and unexpected errors. So in this module, we'll learn how Python actually interacts with your system, and we'll build a real backup automation script used in production environment. We'll be starting with module 4, file, OS, and error handling in Python. So let's create one folder right here for module 4, and we'll create a file to track the content for module 4. So in this module 4, what you will learn basically is given right here. So we'll start with reading and writing the files, and we will try to take text files. We'll do CSV files, and third one is JSON files. So we'll try to read and write content to these three type of files: text, CSV, and JSON. Python does provide built-in libraries or modules in order to interact with this kind of files. Next one is directory and file management. So in this, we will also see like how built-in modules can be utilized in order to interact with directories and files inside OS operating system. The third one is exception handling. So exception handling is required when you interact when you try to create a program which does contain some errors, but you are unsure about that code. So that time you may require try except block, and whatever code you think might generate errors can be kept inside try block, and except will catch the errors if any. And finally, block will get executed in any case. So if you want, you can generate informational message, or if you want to close any database kind of like connections, then in that case you can use this finally block. Then the next concept that we are going to cover is logging and basic debugging. So we are going to interact with Python loggers in order to implement efficient logging for your Python scripts. And logging is required when you interact. Logging is basically required when there is so when you execute your Python script, logging is essential in order to track the errors and progress on that particular application. So if there are any transactions being happening through your application script, so that can be tracked using the logs. So logs are essential when you interact in real world applications. And last but not the least, the project. So we are going to develop a backup automation script with error handling and logging. So we'll try to implement most of the concepts in this particular backup automation script. So without further delay, let's start with the first concept of this particular module: reading and writing files. So we'll start with text file. Let's create a Python script here. We'll name the script as text processor.py. Okay. And yeah, let's explore what all things are there inside this file management. Mm. So Python allows us to work with files using built-in function named as one. So built-in function is provided by Python to interact with files. And with this function, we'll try to uh, we'll try to access and read and write to the files. And there are few modes which you need to understand in or before you work with files. So file modes are required when you work along with files. First one is read mode, second one is write mode, and third one is append mode. So as name itself suggests, read mode is essential when you want to read the file. Write mode is essential when you want to write the file, and third one is append. Append mode is can be useful when you want to append some content at the end of file. one thing you need to understand here is in write mode, the file will get overwritten. If you want to write anything, mostly you need to prefer append file mode. If you want to add any content at the end of file, if you want to write from start of file, then in that case you can prefer write file mode. So let's create one program here. We'll define one variable named as note. We'll write some message here to this variable like backup is completed successfully. Okay. Now we'll open one doc file and we'll try to store this content to that particular file, and we'll try to access that content from file. So in order to open file, the function is open, and you need to understand one more statement here. So Python does provide with statement. While working with files, you need to use this with statement which closes your files automatically upon code execution. If you don't use with statement and if you open the file manually, in that case you need to close file, otherwise the file will remain open and it may cause issues. So with the syntax is with followed by open, and you need to provide the file name here. So here you can see what all options are there inside for this open function. So here you can see, so you need to provide these options. It is not required to provide all the options, but yeah, the open function requires files, file and mode. So here we will provide the file name, and the file name is backuplog.txt, and the mode which we are going to open is write mode, because initially we will be writing this content to this particular file and we don't have any backup hyphen log.txt file in our current path. So this file will get created by the Python as file. So basically we have created a file object for this particular file, backuplog.txt file. And now we will use this object in this particular block to interact with this particular file. So we will write content, read content. And for now we will be writing the content as we have opened this file in the write mode. So yeah, so we just need to provide object. We need to call the write method, and we need to provide the variable which we want to write to the file. That's it. This will write the content to the file. That's it. So you don't need to do any kind of further logic for this, right? For writing the content to the file. This much code will make sure that your code is written to the file. And if you want to cross check, let me run the program for you. So let me switch to this directory first, model 4. So cd python model 4. Okay. Now let me run this code text processor.py, and here you can see the file has got created. So let's just scan that file, and here you can see the content has successfully been written to this particular file. Now if we rerun this file, it will rewrite this content, the file will get overwritten, so you will see the same line again and again. So if let me rerun this particular script. Oh sorry. And here let me cat the file. So here you can see only one instance of backup is completed successfully is being shown here. Why? Because write will overwrite the content of this particular file. It will overwrite. If you want to append, you just need to change the file mode, and you will see the two instances of this particular line in this backup.log.txt file. So let me rerun this program, and now you will see the two lines got created inside this backup.log.txt file, and here you can see two instances are have got created for this uh, backup node basically. Now, if you see here, it has got created in a single line because we haven't passed any special characters. So let's add special character to this node in order to process next line. Change the file mode to write. Now, if you see, the content will get overwritten when you use write, and only single line will be shown now. So here you can see only one line is being printed because the previous content has got overwritten. Let me change the file mode to the append now, and let's rerun the script. And here you can see two instances got created. If we rerun it, you can see the three instances of same node. So this way you can add content to the file. And due to this reason, whenever we try to read this particular file with append plus operation, it does not return anything because cursor is already at the end of file. So what we need to use here is seek function, and seek will make sure to set the stream at the start or as per your desired position. So here we want to set the stream position at the start beginning of this particular file, and seek will set the cursor position at the start of file, and read function will read the file starting from the set location, which is beginning of this particular file. So let's execute the program, and here you can see the five instances are being shown here. Let's add one more, and here you can see six instances of same node has been shown here because we are using a plus method right here. So this is all about text file processing. The next one we are going to see is CSV file processing. So let's create one script for CSV file processing. Let's save this script as CSV hyphen processor, and yeah, sorry, we have saved it as txt file. Let's save this as Python script. So working with CSV files are widely used for reports, backup summaries, audit logs, etc. And Python does provide built-in CSV module, which help us to read and write structured data. Now we'll use the CSV module in order to work with CSV files. And as a part of this particular module 4, we'll be creating backup script. So let's create some helper functions for that particular backup script. So we'll define some headers, and yeah, in header we'll provide file name, then status. So this is the content that we want to read to the particular CSV file. So CSV file will store file name and status of the particular backup script, and we will use the same with open function for CSV file as well, and we have to provide the similar we have to provide the arguments in a similar fashion. So with open, we need to provide file name right here. So backup report.csv, and we'll open this file in the write mode because the file is not yet created, and we'll pass the new line as empty characters. So when we work with CSV files, you need to create a writer, CSV writer. So let's create object for CSV writer, CSV dot writer, and we need to provide this particular file to this particular writer, which will take care of writing content to this particular file. And we just need to call this writer dot write lines, write rows, a write row function. And this is particular this write row method takes input in the form of iterable. So iterable is nothing but list, set, tuples, dictionaries. These are iterable because we can iterate over them. So you have to pass the input in the form of list, tuple, set only. So let's pass this header to this particular function, and we'll print the message right here saying CSV file got created with required headers. CSV file got created with required headers. Okay, so let's try to execute this CSV processor script. Okay, let's see. So you can see CSV file got created with required headers. This print message got printed, and if we see the CSV file, then yeah, you can see the CSV file has got created, and it has headers named as file name and status. So here we have demonstrated the usage of write file mode. This particular script can be useful for first run only. Now, once you create this particular CSV, the next thing you need require is to append the content to this particular CSV or add content to this particular CSV. So how can you do that? So for that you need append operation. So let's open the file once again. But now this time we'll open it in the form of in the append mode, and this new line will remain as empty lines. So in order to append new content to this particular CSV file, you need to create a list object right here. So what you can do is backup data is equal to, you need to create list of lists. You need to create list of lists, and this list object will store file name and status. So let's create app.log and status is success. Then app.log fail config.log success. And this is the content that we want to append to this particular CSV file. Currently, this CSV file has only headers, and after executing this particular block, we want this content to get appended to this particular CSV file. So let's create same things. And so we need to create a writer object of CSV, and we need to provide this file to this particular writer object, and writer will write the content to this particular file. So yeah, these two lines will write all the content to this particular CSV file, and that's it. You don't need to do any kind of like extra things here, and you can just print basically the message. So backup results are appended to CSV. So backup results or backup data basically appended to CSV file. And if you want to read this content, you can do that. You just need to open the same file in the read mode, and yeah, you can simply do file dot read. So let's try to execute this script once again. So now this time it will write this particular backup data to this. This will append this backup data to the existing backup report CSV file. It will print this message, and it will read content, and it will print it on console. So let's execute the script now. Python CSV, and here you can see the content has printed to the. Okay, so here we have done one mistake. We have given the wrong file name. So let's correct the mistake right here. And yeah, the second thing is we are just calling the read method of built-in Python function, but we need reader function here. So let's create a reader object of CSV dot reader library reader function. So let's make use of reader function of CSV library, and this reader will read all the rows sequentially. So if you want to perform operations on each row, this is the recommended option. So if you want to perform any read operation, this is the right way. You have to create reader object, and that reader object will store all the content of this particular file. and you just need to loop over this particular reader object. So this reader is basically iterable, and it will store the list of lists. Whatever data CSV data is present, it will get processed inside this reader. So let's execute this file, and let me delete this CSV report which has got created by mistake. Python CSV reports.py. And here you can see right rows, right rows. Okay, this. So we have given the wrong function. Right row will add all the content in the single row. Instead, we want right rows. Let's uncomment this code, which will recreate this, which will overwrite the content. And yeah, this append block will append the content, and read block will read the content in a sequential manner. So let's try to execute this code. Python CSV processor.py, and here you can see the CSV file has got created with required headers. Then backup data has been appended to CSV file, and then you can see the content here. If you open this file, here you can see the content has got created as per the requirement. This way you can use the CSV module in Python for working with CSV files. So you need to use write rows for writing the multiple rows. If you want to write only single row, in that case, you can use write. And yeah, we are pretty much done with CSV file management as well. The next one is JSON file management. So let's create a new script here for JSON file management, and we'll save it as JSON processor.py. Okay. So when you work on JSON files, you need to use JSON model. JSON is widely used for configuration and metadata. Unlike CSV, JSON does not support direct append operations. So we need to load the file, update the data, and save it again. So let's see how we can write and create the JSON files through Python. So first thing is you need to import the JSON model, and yeah, whatever JSON content you want to write, you can create the object of that JSON data. And JSON is basically a dictionary data, so you need to create a dictionary right here with the key values. So yeah, so here we will provide source directory as data, then backup directory as backup, backup, and runs as empty list. Okay, so this is the config data config dictionary, that config data config dictionary or JSON file, JSON content that we want to write to the file. And yeah, we create a backup configuration with this config data dictionary. So with open, so we have to use this same syntax again and again for file management with open as file, and you need to create object right here for reading writing content to the file. So first then in this particular example we are writing to the file, so we have to provide file name and file mode. So file mode is write, file name is backup config dot is. And here we did the JSON does provide one function which is dump, which will dump all the content to this particular file. And we have to provide arguments to this particular dump function. So first argument it takes is data that we want to dump to the file. So here we want to dump config data to the file. Then we need to provide the file name. So here we want to dump this content to this particular file. So when you here you can see JSON does make use of indentation. Four number of like spaces have been used to for the indentation purpose. So similar way you have to provide the indentation right here as indent is equal to 4. So number of indent is basically the number of spaces. And yeah, this is it for JSON. This will write the data to this backup config.json file. Here we don't have any kind of like configuration file named as backup config. And here we will basically print the message saying that data has got dumped to this JSON file. So backup config data has been dumped to has been dumped or created basically. Backup config data file has been created. Let's try to execute this particular script. Python JSON processor .py, and here you can see the file has got created named as backup config, and here you can see the data has got dumped in this particular file, and here you can count the indentation as well, like 4 spaces has been given for the indentation purpose. So this way you can create the JSON files. So when you use write, this overrides the content. So make sure when you are writing to the files, you take the necessary backup for that particular file. Otherwise, the data will get overwritten and you will lose the data. When you are doing the configuration for the first times, or when you are executing the script for the first time. But if you want to test your script couple of times, then write is not safe because it will overwrite your configuration data. Now, next thing is you want to access the data, you want to read the data. So in that case, JSON does provide one more function named as load. So JSON.load basically reads the data. So here we will open this file in the read mode and we'll use JSON.load method in order to access the JSON file. And yeah, here we'll say, here you can store the content inside config, otherwise you can use print method and you can pass the JSON.load method call inside this print method. We'll store it inside config and we'll print the content right here. So let's print the content config, and here you can see uh, the dictionary has got printed right here. Now, if you want to access single element of this particular dictionary, then you just need to pass that particular key to this particular configuration. So here you can say if you want to access source directory, then you can print it as source directory, and you just need to pass the source directory variable or key right here in the config to the config object. So this source directory will print directory. The source directory key will print the content of this particular key. And here you can see the data has got printed because this is the right way to access the dictionary. So this JSON is basically nothing but a dictionary. You know how to deal with dictionaries. Similar way you have to deal with JSON data as a dictionary. That's it. So far we have covered write and read mode. Now append mode inside JSON is a bit tricky. So here let's me print this config data. So here you can see for runs column or for runs header, we don't have any kind of like data. So let's try to add some data for this runs column. So for that, we will do one thing. So the config already have the data inside this JSON config. What we will do is we'll create one more variable named as run info, and we'll try to import datetime. So from datetime, import datetime dot now is the function that we want to use, and we want to format this particular datetime. So if you print this run info, we'll see what kind of like datetime is printed right here. So but we'll try to format this particular timestamp specific to seconds only. We will format this particular timestamp using this built-in method. And if you click on this particular method, you will see the arguments right here. So we'll use this readily available arguments and we'll pass it to this particular function. Okay. So if we try to print the same run info variable or now, it will print the date timestamp in this format, which is day, month, year, followed by this particular timestamp of current local time. So this is printing current local time, and this is the today's date. Now we want to add this particular run info in this particular JSON file in at the place of runs. We'll add one more column named as status. Let's create this run info as dictionary, and we'll do one thing. We'll add time key, and we'll pass this date time as value to this time column. Then we'll create status, and we'll add status to this particular key. So this way, so here, okay. Time. So here we have created dictionary, and we have added time and status to this particular dictionary. So this date time will print current date time, and status will print the status of backup script. Now the data of this particular JSON is stored inside this config. So we'll use this config object, and we'll pass the information to runs column because runs is empty, and runs column will basically store, or runs key basically stores the information for that particular column, and we'll use append method right here. So config runs dot append was run info, and we'll open the file now once again in write mode, and we'll try to write the same config with runs added with this particular run information. So this way you can append the data to the JSON file in Python. And yeah, we'll copy the with block, and this way, and here we'll pass the file mode as write. And yeah, this file will get opened now with the write mode, and we'll dump the data. So yeah, we just need to provide same things once again. So config has got appended with run info, which has timestamp as well as status, and config provided by file provided by indent. Indent is nothing but four number of spaces. Once this is done, we'll print the message as backup run info updated in JSON. So backup run info updated in JSON. So let's open the backup configuration file. Here runs is empty, and let's try to execute this particular script once. And here it has printed that backup run info has been updated in JSON. Let's open the JSON file, and here you can see the runs has got updated with timestamp and status. So this way you can work with JSON files in Python. And I hope you have understood all the concepts given here. There is no append operation supported for JSON files. If you want to append, you have to access the individual key or whatever keys you want to append with new data, that you have to use this way, dictionary way. And yeah, you can basically load the data inside one object. You can append the data, and you can dump the data using write file mode. So this way you can manage the JSON files in Python. Now, if you want to see the content of this newly added run, then you can simply open this file, and you can run a loop for your run. So config basically has this runs dictionary. So if you see, runs itself has one list of dictionary. Okay, so config runs is basically a iterable, and you can iterate over iterable using for loop, and you need to print this run right here. So Python JSON processor.py, and here you can see the run info has been printed successfully. So that's all for this particular topic. and I'll mark this as completed. The next thing that we are going to see is directory and file management with the help of OS and shutil modules. So let's create one more script for directory and file management. We'll save the script as OS management and we'll store this file as Python script. So Python can create folders, list files, it can copy, move, or delete your files inside your operating system. And it makes use of OS module and shutil modules. So based on your requirements, you need to use these modules. So in order to create backup directories or in order to copy the files from one directory to another, we'll import this OS and shutil. We'll create one directory named as source directory. So source directory is data. The destination directory, we'll call it as backup. And yeah, or when you copy files or directories from source to destination, you need to check whether that file already exists or not. So in order to perform any kind of like checks, you can use if else block. So if not os dot path dot exists destination directory. So if destination directory is not present, what we want is we want to create this directory. So this way it will check whether that destination directory is present or not. If it's not present, it will create this directory. Next thing is we want to copy the files from data to the backup directory. To do that, we have to use loop because if the files are more than one, in that case, you cannot copy single file each time. You want something which can run automatically number of times based on files available. So for that purpose, you can use for loop and for file inside os dot list directory and you want list directory source directory. So here we want to list source directory content and we want to copy whatever files present inside this source directory will get copied to destination directory. So this os dot list directory will list all the files in data directory. Then we'll create source file equals os dot path dot join. So we'll create source file and destination file here. So destination file is equal to, we'll create the path first using join method. So this will file. So these two instances we have created, which will store the absolute path for source file as well as destination file. If source file is file, then we'll provide source file. So this if is file will check whether the given file is regular file or not. If it's not regular file, it will skip the copy operation on this particular file. So we'll make use of shutil copy command, copy method, and we'll provide source file and destination file. And yeah, once this is done, we just need to come out of loop and we'll need to write file has been backed successfully. So we see the logic right here. First, we are checking whether the destination directory is present or not. Destination directory is backup directory. Then file can be a object in the file word can be object inside Python. So I have changed the file to file name. So in for loop, we are accessing the files inside this source directory data, and whatever files present inside this data will get accessed with the help of this for loop, and those files will be processed by this for loop. And each file inside this data will be formatted using os.path.join command. So this will create absolute path for that particular source file. Similarly, we have created absolute path for destination file. And with the help of is file method, we are checking whether the source file is a regular file or not. If it's not regular file, the copy operation is skipped basically. Currently, we don't have any kind of data directory here. So let's create one data directory, and inside data we'll create few files. So let's create. So here we have created 10 files with the help of touch command, and here you can see the files has got created. So let's try to copy. We don't have any kind of like backup directory right here in this particular module for path. So let's try to execute this program and see whether these files get gets copied to the backup directory or not. File backup done successfully. Let's check the backup directory, and here you can see the files has been copied from data directory to the backup directory. So this way you can make use of OS model and shutil module in order to copy the files or create directories. So yeah, I'll mark this particular part as completed. There are various functions that you can explore inside file management and directory management as per the requirement, but I hope you understood the basic usage of OS management with this particular example. The next part that we are going to explore is exception handling. So exception handling is crucial when you work on any kind of like scripts or automation. So let's create exception handling.py. So let's create script for exception handling, and we'll write some sample code to elaborate like how exceptions can be handled. There might be situation where script fails due to missing directories, permission issues, or disk errors. So Python lets us handle failures gracefully using try except drop. So yeah, let's try to implement the code for exception handling. We'll copy the code from OS management and we'll implement exception handling in this particular script. So here we have started for loop. So we'll add this particular for loop inside try block, and we will add the different checks. We'll add except file not found error. So here you can see the exception names file exists error, file not found error, Python finalization error. Different exception class have been already given. You have to use based on your requirement. So if you click here, you can see this is the class, this is the object, etc. So if you click on this, you can see its definition. If you want to explore more about this particular exception, you can just keep on clicking on this particular class, and you will get to know like what all things have been written inside this particular class. And this is provided inside this built-in script of Python. So here we'll add some uh, so here we'll add some exception blocks to handle different exceptions. So we'll add file not found error, and here we will simply print the message saying source directory not found. Similar way we will add exception block for different things like permission error, and here we'll say permission denied while copying the files. Then we'll add exception. So this is default exception block, except exception as e. So this is default exception which covers exceptions which are not available inside Python. So if there's any exception which is not already handled by built-in exception classes, then it will be handled by this exception class. So we'll print the unexpected error inside exception block. Okay. And as mentioned earlier, the final block will get executed. If you want to close files or if you want to close in database connections, which you opened inside this try block, that you can do inside finally block. So yeah, let's try to execute this particular script now. So the script name is exception handling. And for now, what I will do is I will change the source directory name. I will rename the source directory to data1 just to test these exceptions classes. Let's execute this script. And here you can see source directory not found, file backup done successfully. So here you can do one thing. If there is any error, you should not see this message in the finally. So what you can do is you can simply add if else block checks. So here we can define checks as false. By default, checks as false. If there is any exceptions, the checks will become true. In case of so if there is any exception, if checks, if not checks, means if there is no error, then print backup done successfully. Else backup failed. So this way you can add if else block to print the correct message. And yeah, so here you can see file backup has been failed. So directly not found. This is the exception that we have got. So this is all about like exception handling. You can use try except block. You can explore this try except block. We'll try to add all the nodes related to this code and concept to this particular GitHub repository. Still, if you don't understand any concepts or if you have any queries about any concept, then you can comment it out in the comment box. We'll try to resolve your queries. So this is all for try except block in Python. The next section is logging and basic debugging. So let's create script for this one, logging and debugging. Using print function is not a professional approach when you implement things in Python script. For testing, yeah, it can be used, but for writing the professional script, you don't need to use a print method. You need to use logging to track information or errors or warnings about your script. Python does provide logging module. You can make use of logging module to implement efficient logging for your Python script. The way is import logging, and you need to create the basic config object of this logging module. It takes different arguments. So here you can see it takes file name, file mode, format, date format, labels, etc. So let's create one object for our demonstration. So we'll create file name as log, label will be info. So we have to use logging labels here. So this is the label that we want to use and format. So in format, you will basically provide your log format. So mostly you might be aware the logs are printed in this form. Like it starts with some date timestamp followed by the label of log like warning, error, etc. Followed by the message, actual message, log message. So this is the standard way of printing the logs. So if I give example, so today's date is 03/01/2026. Info backup has been started. So this is the standard way of printing the logs. So we have to pass the format here for the logger. So format is we will be using ASCII time, and we will be using label name given in the label followed by the message. This is the expected format that we want to print. So it will start with that timestamp. We are using ASCII time, which will convert the given time to the human readable format. The level name will print this particular level and followed by message. So this way your log will get printed or will get formatted in this particular log file. Now the next thing is we'll use the same code given here for which has try catch block, try except block, and we'll copy paste this particular block here. And yeah, we have to import OS and shutil as well. So import OS, import shu. Okay, and let's. So first thing we have done is we have implemented logger. Then we have copy pasted the existing script content. So here we need to provide information for this particular logging object. So for this logging object, we have provided information like log file name, log label, and the format. Now next thing is we have to start the actual logging. So logging.info will is the method to store the logs. So here we will say has been started. So if you type logging dot, you will see the functions here. So here we have info function. Similarly, you can see the different functions like uh basic config function is there, add level name is there. Then we have critical for logging the critical errors. This is the critical function is there. Debug function is there. Then we have disable function, we have error function, exception function. So different functions have been given by the logging module. You just need to make utilization of those methods as per your requirement. So let's so for now we have used logging.info and logging.basic config methods. So here we are saying backup has been started, then the actual backup process has been started. Next thing is file not found. Okay, so when in case of like exceptions, what we'll do is logging.info, uh, logging.exception, and we'll say source directory not found. And if you are using logging, you don't need to print anything to the console because everything will get logged inside this logging file. So you don't need to worry about printing everything to the console. And yeah, logging dot exception will store all the exceptions. And yeah, uh, so logging dot info, logging dot info. Okay. Actually, this is error. So yeah, in case of error, it will say backup failed. And so here you can say logging dot info file has been copied. So this way you can implement logger and you can add whatever logs you want, you can add it. So you can print as much as logs as per your requirement. There is no rule for that. It can be used as per your requirement. And yeah, if you see it here, we have provided backup.log file. So currently we don't have backup.log file. So let's execute this program and see what all logs will get printed to this particular backup.log file. And here you can see backup.log file has been created, and yeah, you can see all the errors and everything inside this particular backup.log file. So this is the actual usage of loggers in Python, and I hope you have understood this particular concept of logging. And with the help of this backup log, you can easily understand like what is the error. So here it is saying that file not found error, and the source directory is not found. So what you can check here is source directory is present or not. So source directory is data. Near data is not present. So yeah, you can just rename this particular directory. And let's rerun the program and now check the log file. So here you can check, you can see the file has been copied to backup directory, and we have 10 files. It has repeatedly written the same line saying file copied to backup directory. Now if you want to add the file name, you can do that. So what you can do is if you have to use formatted string when you want to access the variables in this particular file. So files source file has been copied to has been copied to backup directory, add this path, this file, and let's run this particular program. Now you will see the file name as well. So data slash one has been copied to backup directory backup slash one. So yeah. So these logs are essential when you get any kind of like errors like this one. You need this kind of like logs. And in order to implement this kind of logs, you need logging module inside Python. So that is all for this particular module. I hope you understand all the concept given in this logging and basic debugging. Now the project given here is develop a backup automation script with error handling and logging. If you observe this logger.py script, this is more of like backup automation script. In reality, the backup happen in this way only. The only one thing that we can add to this particular script is you can add SSH to particular server, and you just need to log into that backup source server from where you want to the data or copy the data, and based on that you can copy the data from source server and you can paste that data to the destination server. And that thing I want you guys to explore and implement. If you get any kind of like errors during that, then please do let us know and we'll give the actual project after that. So I want viewers to implement this particular project. I'll mark this as completed based on whatever concepts we have learned so far. You can try to implement this project, and if you get any kind of like challenges while implementing this project, we will make one video specifically for this particular project at the end of this particular Python complete course. So that's all for today's video. This is not just a Python, this is real automation and engineering. In the next module, we will move into advanced Python for DevOps and cloud automation. Thank you for watching this video and see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.